All right. I see our attendees piling in for tonight. Hi, everybody. Welcome. My name is Sibel Rasim. I'm the facilitator for tonight. Thank you all so much for attending. I know some of you are definitely still coming in, so that's totally fine. I do want to introduce you to our awesome counselors as well as educators in the room in just a second. But before I do, I want to go over some of these housekeeping items with you. So again, we are dedicated to excellence tonight. That's what Cherry Creek schools are all about. And that is why these panels are being put together for you, just to make sure that you're ready to go to college, right? So we have a virtual college fair after this, featuring HBCU, HSI, and NASI institutions from all over the country. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that at the end of the session. But before I turn it over to Heidi and Ali, you may want to ask them questions throughout. So please ask those questions down in the Q&A. Just click on the Q&A button down at the bottom and go ahead and type your questions at any point in time. Don't wait until the last minute. We will be potentially having a live Q&A, Heidi and Ali. If they choose to do a live Q&A, they definitely can answer your questions live, or they may be typing those answers to your questions as well in that Q&A. Now, it is a webinar style type of virtual session this evening, so your camera and microphone are turned off, so you're muted. We cannot see or hear you. So the way you will interact with all of us tonight, especially Heidi and Ali for tonight, will be through that Q&A. Also, your chat is disabled, so you can't interact back and forth, but Heidi and Ali might definitely put some links or something in the chat, so definitely check the chat once in a while as well. Also, sign up for more sessions. This is not the only thing happening this evening through Cherry Creek Schools. We also have a virtual college fair happening after this entire session, so definitely check that out as well. We'll have a few of those sessions tonight. And then also remember, a recording of this will be available. So all sessions are recorded and they will be available to you, through the strivescan.com/Cherry Creek in the coming days. We have about 40 minutes on the clock, so I'll now turn it over to Heidi and Ali. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. I am going to go ahead and share my screen so that we can kind of get going talking about creating the college list. So let me make that presentation situation happen. There we go. Just to make sure everyone can see, you can see my screen. Beautiful. All right, so we're going to talk about creating the college list today. As she mentioned, my name is Heidi McClure, and I am a counselor and the postgrad coordinator over at Eagle Crest High School.
And I am Ali Pineda, and I am a counselor over at Overland.
So what we're going to talk to you guys about tonight is just kind of how you can go about doing some research, some different resources that are available to you, kind of what's really important. I know that this fair is open to, obviously all students, so you may be at different places in the college planning process. So hopefully we'll just provide you with some food for thought and some information as you're thinking about and applying for college. I can't really hear Ali. Ali, can you turn yourself up a little bit?
Can you hear me when I talk now?
Yeah. It's just a little soft.
Okay, let me try again. Hold on. Is that better?
Is that better?
No.
Somebody, if you can type in the Q&A and let me know if it's better, that would be great. Yes. All right. Fantastic. Okay, so now that we are, hearing and seeing things, we'll go ahead and get started. So one of the things, let's see if this actually works. There we go. And this is just kind of like, where do I begin? And what you want to begin with is by asking yourself, why college, right? And for you, the answer to this question may be a million different things. It may be because all my friends are doing it and I feel like that's what I should do, right? It may be it's easier than working, or my parents won't let me live in their basement for the rest of their lives. Or I'm passionate about XYZ, and I think college is the way to achieve that. So regardless of where you are beginning, like I said, these may be some questions that you're asking yourself. And when we ask people this, there are kind of some typical answers that they usually give.
I think I want to capitalize on that just a little bit. you know, people say a lot of things, and one of my favorite things to do is go shopping. And so I think it's really exciting when we think about like why college and what it is. Really finding your fit is so important. My whole thing with my kiddos is really you want to find things that are interesting to you. You want to create your life. Our whole goal for you is to get you through high school so that the possibilities are endless for you, so that you can create your life and fund what you need to fund, support who you need to support. That comes with college in a lot of different reasons. Sometimes we get rooted in talking about colleges as a 4-year degree, when really we're talking about a specific career, and that can include different 2-year programs that are going to help you make more money. Or if you even don't even know where to start, being able to kind of go along the way and build upon yourself versus putting on limits for you.
Yeah, no, I for sure. And I think it is what we'll kind of be talking about. And there's a really good quote in here in a couple slides that basically is like, this is not necessarily about winning a prize. This is about making a match between you and your future and what it is that you want to accomplish in your future. You know, when you're thinking about college and top reasons why, you know, that why students list that they go to college, you know, some of it is, I want to learn about things that interest me. I want to be able to get a better job. I want to get training for a specific career. I want to be able to make more money or gain general education and appreciation of ideas. But regardless of the reasons that you are interested in pursuing college or pursuing a future, you know, education or career, you know, we want to make sure that it's something you've really been thoughtful of and that you're really considering, is this, you know, what is the best path in order to get to the career in the future that I'm looking for? And this is that quote that I was mentioning, which I just love. Because, you know, a lot of times, and I think we're in such a competitive environment that sometimes it's like, oh, I have to go to this college because US News and World Report says that this is the best college, you know, and they say that I should do this and this. But it's not necessarily it's a match to be made, not a prize to be won. So we are sometimes romanced by a name rather than looking for the best matches. And I love this idea that, you know, the best fit is what the student determines, and there could be several fits and not just one. A lot of times when I'm having conversations with kids, they're like, well, I don't know which one to choose. You know, if they've gotten the list narrowed down and they've applied and been accepted. And what I will tell kids all the time is, you know, you can't make a bad decision. If you find a college or colleges that are in alignment with your goals and your personality and they feel like a good fit, then you won't be able to make a bad decision regardless of what it is that you decide. So that is kind of this whole idea of fit, and that's kind of where we want to start talking about creating the college list.
Okay. So really what makes a good fit, like Ms. McClure was saying, we need to find something that matches you, what your interests and your needs are, what your hopes and dreams are, and make sure that when you go somewhere, you're not just picking a pretty tree on a brochure, because they pay a lot of people to take some pretty pictures about their college's campus. But you want to
You
make
can
sure
find
that
a
they have
pretty
something
tree
you're
on any
interested in.
campus.
Yes, or a lake, or students lounging in a common area. Like everything looks good because they need you. They want you to come there. So they're going to market to you. But we got to make sure that you're making them work for you instead. So we also really need to talk about what provides a style of instruction to match the way you like to learn. Are you a hands-on person, a visual? Do you like being in big lecture halls? Do you like a one-on-one fit? We have to make sure that it's going to provide you a level of the academic rigor that's going to match what you are used to and what you're setting your goals to. More importantly, I think we just need to make sure that we're talking about finding a community that feels like you, or that gets you somewhere around people that maybe you haven't had a chance to be, that you'd like to explore, and bring that into your life as well. And the most important thing, you guys, it has to value you for what you do well. Remember, when you are going to these colleges, you are paying them a lot of money to kind of boost their good name. They need you. So we want to make sure that they are going to value and honor you, and you can just thrive.
Absolutely. And, you know, one of the things that Ms. Pineda mentioned was, you know, making sure that you are able to achieve, you know, what it is that you set out to achieve and what you're interested in. And some of that is making sure that that they have a program of study that's of interest to you. Something to keep in mind is that most college students, I think the statistic is something like 80% of college students change their major at least once while in college. I know I did. You know, I went in as a math major thinking I wanted to be a math teacher, only to figure out that I was not very good teacher. So, I mean, it is okay to change your mind, and it's okay to go in undeclared. There are some schools now that make you declare, but they have something called exploratory studies, which basically means undeclared, but it's not called undeclared. So, I mean, you can go in, and what you want to make sure that you're doing when you're identifying programs of studies is making sure that there are options within different fields that you're interested in. So, you may, if I went in and I was interested in math, but I chose not to go to Colorado School of Mines because I didn't want to do specifically math and computer science. And I knew that there was a possibility I would change my mind, and I didn't think that I was interested in engineering. So I picked a school that kind of offered a diverse area of interest in case I decided to change my mind, which obviously I did. So, I mean, I think when we're talking about program of study, it's important to look for, yes, what it is that you're thinking that you're going to pursue now, and also to make sure that there's flexibility if you change your mind. And, it's really okay. There are several people that I know of, my husband for one, whose career has nothing to do with what he majored in college. And then there are some people like myself, I ended up, majoring in psychology. Like that has a lot to do with what I do now. So, I mean, I think that it kind of can run the gamut of whether your future career, how it aligns with what you major in college. Just something that colleges are reporting 80 to 90% of people who graduated more than 25 years ago are in careers that didn't exist when they graduated. Especially you think of the explosion of technology, and just all of the things with like artificial intelligence that are on the forefront. I mean, there are going to be careers that you guys end up being engaged in that we don't even know about yet. So I think it's really important that you pick something, and pick a college that has a program of study that is going to be a good fit for you. And this kind of goes with that idea of like I said, what if I don't know what I want to major in? It's totally okay, right? Like think about what your favorite course subject is, and maybe that's where kind of you focus your interest. Look for colleges that have really solid programs in your area of interest. But then if you change your mind, there's flexibility there, and know that it's okay to transfer after your freshman or sophomore year. If you get into a school and it, there is very focused in the sciences, and then you decide you want to go in the humanities, it is totally okay to transfer schools. So, just when you're making a decision and starting to create your college list and looking at colleges that might be a good fit, it's okay to realize that what is a good fit now and for what your interests are right now may not be ultimately what is the best fit for you long term. So it's okay to change your mind, and it's okay not to know what you're going to major in, because most people change their minds anyway. So that is perfectly okay, and just make sure that as you're researching schools to put on your list, that you're really kind of being well-rounded in your approach to find things both that interest you and that are strengths right now, also knowing that there's a lot of flexibility.
And you guys, that's one of my very favorite things to hear is when people say, well, I don't really know what I want to do. I love that because I think it gives you that open-ended approach, and then we can kind of start with talking about like career searches and things that you would do to kind of find what you're interested in. But yeah, there are going to be things that you might think you're interested in and you wind up not being, and you have to be able to give yourself permission to change your mind. And if we're finding a college that's truly a good fit for you as a person, they're going to have the programs of study that are more than likely going to match that already without having to put you through an excess amount of stress.
And Ms. Pineda mentioned this a little bit, but in terms of style of instruction, it's really important to think about who are you? What is your learning style? What's really important to you? Are you somebody who is a participant, or are you're a little bit more passive and you'd rather just kind of sit back? I mean, I think about one of the biggest things that people talk about is what is your average class size, right? And a lot of colleges, even large colleges, will report their average class size is 20 to 30 kids. Well, what I always tell kids to think about those intro level freshman classes that everyone has to take. Right? So what is the size of that class? What is the size of the biggest class that they offer? Personally, I knew that being in a lecture style hall with 500 other students did not suit the way that I learned. I need a very much more hands-on, smaller approach. So I needed to make sure that the college that I chose had class sizes that were much smaller. So that's definitely something to think about when you are choosing what colleges you want to go to, not necessarily just the average class size, but asking what is the largest class size that they have? What is the average size of their introductory freshman level classes? The other thing to think about, and I love these kind of different ways of thinking about it, but think about who your favorite teacher is and what's your favorite class that you've had, and why is this your favorite teacher? Why is this your favorite class? Is it because the teacher teaches in a specific style? Is it because there's a lot of interaction between you and your classmates, a lot of opportunities for group work? Think about those things as you are kind of starting to think about the type of college environment that you want to be in. Do you like to be in a large group? Would you rather be in a small group discussion? The smallest class that I was in when I was in college was 4 students, right? The largest class that I was in was 42 students, and it had 2 professors. So for me, like, I loved it. I loved getting in there, but there are some people who that's just not your thing. So, I mean, think about that as you are researching colleges and starting to build your list.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. I think and you don't have to limit yourself to your favorite high school class either. You can channel back to even middle school and think about something that maybe inspired a passion or a hobby that you have that you're like, yeah, I'd like to grow that. And how can I combine that with other things that are going to help me get a job? I think we have to also too, when, like we were saying, like, are you a kid who's going to be able to walk into a class of 400 students taking biology and be able just to jive without having that one-on-one with a teacher? And what is that level of academic competition that it brings to it? You need to look for words in their on their websites of like relaxed or rigorous, competitive or collaborative. Do you like to work with people? When you are in your classes, are you good at group work? Or do you like to work alone on your own? You do want to check out the college selectivity. I think a lot of times kids apply maybe like as a name brand shopping, and we need to look at what's the likelihood of actually getting in. It's amazing. Yes, you should absolutely have a reach school that's really, really hard to get in. That might just be your dream school. But we also want to look at maybe what's competitive, what you have a good chance, 75% chance of getting in, a 50% chance in, even a 25% chance in. Are you going to, when you look at that academic profile, which means like the average GPA and ACT or SAT score a college takes, do you fit well within the range of that middle 50%? Because when you get there, those are going to be the people that you're surrounded with. And is that going to fit with you?
And I think on top of that too, if financial aid and, merit-based scholarships are something that's important to you, that's a consideration as well. And we'll talk about cost in a few minutes. But if you fit within that middle 50%, understand that you probably are not going to be somebody who receives a lot of merit-based aid from that school. It is when you are at those schools where you kind of stand out and are really in that top, if the middle 50% of what they're looking for is a 3.7 to a 3.9, and you have a 4.6, right? That is going to put you in that top echelon of people where you are going to earn a merit-based scholarship. So really, and as we talk about these separate pieces, there are things that you want to think about in isolation, but also with how they work with each other and how you can make sure that you are selecting a school that fits you, that is, offers the level of academic rigor that you're prepared for, that will give you AP credit if that's something that's important to you, that will fit with, that will be a good financial fit. And looking at how all of those things work together is really kind of the magic of creating a solid college list.
Exactly. Okay, so I mean, we say a lot of really scary things. We're talking about financial aid. We're talking about GPAs and test scores and being competitive in a new environment. And that can be really scary. So it's about shopping, looking for that right real estate. If you were going to buy a house, you wouldn't buy a house in the wrong state or somewhere really, really snowy if you really only like the sunshine. You wouldn't buy a house on a busy street if you had young kids, right? You just wouldn't do those things. So we need to make sure that you are trusting your gut. And truly, what is most important to your values, who you are as a person? Yes, you have to go somewhere that has programs that you like. You don't want to waste your money going somewhere that doesn't. But you want to get with people who are going to inspire you, who are going to grow you, who are going to challenge you a little bit to be the better version of you that you want to be. I think a lot of times when I talk to kids, place and proximity can be really scary. You don't want to just apply to a school just because it happens to be close by and is convenient. And oh my gosh, don't ever put that on an application. You will get denied if you say that in your letter. So make sure that yes, place and proximity is a big deal, especially if you're limited where you might be able to travel to. That's why it's even more important to go back and channel back in the experiences that you're hoping to create, the people you're around, the programs they have, the principles they might carry as a certain school, and some for some of you, the prestige or the history of a place might play a key role as well.
Mhm. And I think kind of along with that, we are at an evening event for, HBCUs and HSIs and NASIs. And I think, obviously, if that's something that is important to you to connect with, people of a similar background and with similar experiences, and that's something that's important to you, then certainly like that is going to go high on your priority list in terms of things that you're looking at and things that you're looking for. Does that mean you can apply exclusively to HBCUs? No, you don't need to only apply there, but if that's something that's important to you, I think it's good to make sure that you have a college list that's well-rounded and kind of matches a number of your priorities. The other piece that we kind of talk about when we're talking about college fit, we talk about price, right? Where's it going to hit you in your pocketbook? How expensive is it? And we're not just talking about the sticker price, right? We're not talking about like, well, when I go on their website, the list for cost of attendance is $72,845. No, we're not talking about the sticker price because that is scary, right? What we are talking about is your expected cost. How much is your net price given your circumstances, your financial circumstances, your academic circumstances? How much is it going to cost you as a student? Not what the sticker price says on their website. We're talking about personality. We're talking about, is it public, private? Do they have perks? Are there parties? What kind of politics are at play? If you're somebody who considers yourself, pretty conservative, you're certainly not going to want to apply to a number of schools that are overly liberal and overly, kind of at the opposite end of the spectrum from you. So kind of being, cautious of and conscientious of where they fall on the political spectrum. And then possibilities for after college. So that may be, that actually might be possibilities during college. So studying abroad, leadership opportunities, athletics, and we'll talk about some of those different things, as well as what future doors does that open for you. Also keeping in mind, and I know as a parent myself, it is very, very tempting to be like, hey, this is where I went to school, my child, you should also go there, right? Because I have the utmost love for the schools that I went to. But just because it's a great fit for me, it does not mean that it's a great fit for my child. And I tell kids all the time, just because your boyfriend or girlfriend currently goes or is planning on going there, that does not mean that it's a good fit for you. It may be a good fit for them, maybe a good fit for your best friend, but that might not be the best fit for you. So this really becomes kind of a personal journey, which is, you can engage with it with your parents, which is what I love, is it's kind of a really good opportunity in that time when, parents start to feel a little disconnected from their students because they drive now and they do all these things and they're doing all these things independently, but a really good time to bring your family together and talk about what your child really wants out of their education. Sports are great, but it's not always about going, to a place who won the national championship. I say that because, I went to a school that won national championships. And so way to go, University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, best basketball team of all time. Not this year, or who has the coolest mascot, right? Like who doesn't want to go to a school whose mascot is the banana slugs? I mean, that's pretty epic, but not necessarily the reason to choose a school.
You guys, with that, I'm just going to capitalize on that. Be brave. It's really hard to go somewhere different. It's really hard to go somewhere that your parents might not have gone to, or your brother or your sister or your neighbor or your friend, and especially a significant other. But be brave. Take a risk. You can do hard things, and it's okay to step outside that box. No one's going to force you to stay there if you're miserable, whether you go to your dream school or you don't get in the first time and you transfer. But take a risk and look at what the world has to offer. This is your time. You've earned it.
Yeah, I could not agree more, right? Like you work hard to apply to colleges and be in a position where you can go to college. So yeah, like this is about you. And it's one of those times in life where you can be uniquely selfish, and like, that's okay because it's your journey.
Okay, talking about class sizes. I know we kind of scared you with the 400 freshmen and biology thing again, but it really makes a difference, like who you are and how you learn, and how you approach things. I think Ms. McClure got up a really good point. When you look at average class sizes, and they might say our average class size is 24, they could be talking about anywhere from that 200 range to that class, that grad school class that has 12. And so are you going to be surprised walking in and getting a different experience? The campus size matters too. A lot of kids, if you're driving, if you have the privilege of being able to drive, you might not be able to take a car. It might be a pedestrian based campus, or if it's in an urban environment, it might have to be. Can you bring a bike? Can you bring scooters? How are you going to get around? Or are you going to have to learn how to do a new city's RTD system, or public transportation? I guess it's not called RTD in every city, is it? And you got to look at your school too. I know that at least with our school, we get a lot of students who transfer in who are amazed at how big it is. It seems so huge. And to me, I'm like, this is the smallest school that we have in the district. And then we look at classes that are at Cherry Creek High School, where you go to school with double the size of almost every other school in the district. And they say, well, I don't want to go to a school smaller than. Of course you want bigger, better. You're probably used to the bigger. But is that you? Is that really what you want when it comes to size? You also have to think about who you want to meet. And we're talking about in the last slide, like, what do you want to have your experience? Politics, parties? Let's be honest. A lot of us wanted to go for some of those parties, and you deserve that too. But you got to make sure that when you're out of school, if you are a person who tends to keep smaller circles around you, a smaller school might be better for you than a big school where you could feel lost, especially if it's a big school without sororities. But again, this being an HBCU, HST fair, a lot of these places are going to have built-in social opportunities for you to help make you feel at home, which are so key and so important, and probably what you're looking for in your experience.
100%. And I think you kind of mentioned this already as well, but thinking about the location, how close or far do you want to be from home? Do you want to be in state or out of state? Do you want to be urban, suburban, rural? Do you want to be, what kind of access do you want to have to different things? What is the weather like? Do you want to be in a place that's sunny all the time, or you like the snow? I always also encourage kids to think about location and how it relates to what they're interested in studying. So if you are somebody who's interested in going into business, right, and you're maybe interested in international business, right, well, you probably would not want to go to a college that's very rural, and you wouldn't necessarily have access to businesses for internships and things like that. If you're interested in agriculture, then yes, maybe a rural school makes more sense to you. But think about where you want to be and how far or how close you want to be away from home. And I know as a parent, it's very scary to think about your kids going halfway across the country. But I think it's also really important as a parent to again think about, like, what is the best opportunity for them, and where are they going to be able to grow and flourish the most as an individual as they kind of come into their own and work on this path towards having a career. Does it mean that they're not going to be an hour and a half drive away? Possibly. Does it mean that you're never going to talk to them? Definitely not, right? Just because they're somewhere else or maybe out of state, that's okay. And it will allow them to kind of grow and have a unique experience. And I just echo what Ali said, and just like, be brave. If you want to go out of state, apply to schools out of state. There is this myth that out of state schools are very, very expensive. And I will tell you, if you are looking at some of the financial aid available at, some private out of state schools, you're going to find more financial aid available there than you might at our in-state institutions. So, if that's something that scares you off, then, just make sure that you're doing your research, and we'll talk about some resources that are available to help you do that as well.
Yeah. And I would say, you guys, more often than not, we hear, especially this time of year, kids say, well, I'm only going to go somewhere that's warm. And then you're really limiting the amazing possibilities that are out there if you are solely choosing weather and climate. Yes, it's nice to go places warm. You can move somewhere when you're an adult and go somewhere warm. But I've been to some wonderful schools that, you walk through them and you're going to think you're at Hogwarts in these amazing little towns that you might not even know are out there. And so, like we were saying, we're going to talk about the financial aid piece in a minute too. Don't limit yourself off of weather and climate, and don't limit yourself off on perception of how much it's going to cost. Remember that when you go and you're looking at these schools and you're creating your list and you apply, you're going to find out the financial aid package, and you're going to be finding the money after you found out where you want to apply first. So that's all going to come to play. And remember, just because you get in somewhere doesn't mean that you have to go there if the price point ultimately doesn't work for you and your family. I don't want anyone to limit their searches out of fear.
Absolutely. And I would just add to that, like, if you want to be where the warm weather is, I would just assume a lot of people probably want to be there. Like lots of people love to be in California. That is why there are lots of people who apply to schools in California, right? Like there are not very many people who are like, oh no, don't want to be in Malibu, right? Like Pepperdine is a beautiful campus. Absolutely. But there are equally beautiful campuses in other places. And this would just kind of a great segue into financial fit. And this is a really important conversation to have as a family. And I honestly am a huge proponent of kind of the earlier the conversation, the better, just because, the way that I kind of like to think about it is it's like test driving a car, right? Or even shopping. You don't go shopping for a car without kind of having a budget in mind. You don't go shopping for a big purchase without saying, okay, here are kind of the parameters. Here's how much we have to spend on this. Here are the things that we want to take into consideration. So that's a really good starting place as a family to say, okay, here if we've put savings aside, or if we have a really kind grandparent who wants to help out with costs, or we don't have any money put aside, and here's kind of the number of loans that we're interested in taking out, or here's how much scholarship money that we would expect you to get. So the biggest thing is really just to have that honest conversation with your kids about what is this going to look like, how are we going to make this work. And then also, as Ali mentioned, do not rule out colleges early because of cost. Just because they may appear more expensive because of their sticker price, all colleges are legally required to have a net price calculator on their website, which is a great tool. And I'll post something in the chat in just a minute that allows you to kind of search for a net price calculator for any college. But basically, like, going through the net price calculator and putting in some of your student specific details and your family's financial details will help give you a better idea of how much that college is going to end up costing you. And always keep in mind that there are outside scholarships that you can always apply for. So again, making sure that you're having those conversations, educating yourself on the financial aid process, and then just pursuing scholarships, because they can be such an excellent resource in helping you, get to a school that you were like, oh, I don't know, this might be too expensive, or this might not be, the best financial fit. So scholarships are a great avenue for that as well.
And I just want to say too on that, when you are having those really raw, honest conversations, earlier is better. So is finding your fit earlier, because really the steps of it is you find your fit, you apply, which is the super easy part, and then you find the money piece to it. And there's all sorts of tricks and tips to find the money. But if you're really looking at it ahead of time, if you can plan it wisely of where you want to go and it's going to be hard, make sure to talk to us so that we can help you take classes in school that are going to get you free college credits and help out with that ultimate cost along the way, or help you find places that might be a lower cost that you can then therefore transfer. Nothing has to be out of reach right now.
And this kind of goes along more with the kind of the programs and the types of schools. And this is just like, think about whether you want to be at a liberal arts college or a comprehensive college, if you want to be at a college or a university, if there are specific majors, if there are study abroad opportunities, if there are career placement opportunities, if there are specific things that are really important to you. What I always tell kids is like, write down your top priorities on different note cards and kind of shuffle them in the order of what is the most important to you. And that way, as you're considering colleges and adding colleges to your list, you can really make sure that you're hitting on some of those top priorities. And this is one of my favorite ones. So I will, again, rankings can be good for a lot of different things, but I would encourage you, just as you're going through the college search process, to be open-minded. There are so many options for students, and sometimes, it's very easy to get caught up in a name, and also in the comparison game. Well, so-and-so got into Yale, but so-and-so got into Harvard. And you know what, just because that's a good fit for one person does not mean that that may be a great fit for you. So base the school not necessarily on the rankings, but what is a good fit for you and what is going to help you, like I said, learn and grow as a person and as a student. So I would encourage you to be wary of rankings, because sometimes they're based in things that are not super important.
Okay, so I know we kind of touched on this earlier, but who do you want to surround you? Let's go back to that. Who's different from you? Are you adventurous? Are you laid back? Are you unconventional? Are you looking for some more structure? Outdoorsy programs. We're talking about weather a lot. What can you do outdoors? There's lots of things for lots of fits. Remember that when you go to school, you're going to be doing different activities, clubs, intramurals, sports, hobbies, meeting people outside and making friends. You're going to want to bond over things that you are also enjoying besides just studying.
Okay, so, and we mentioned several of these things, so we'll kind of slide through the next slide so we can get to the actual kind of like research piece of it. So social atmosphere, what are the available student activities, Greek life, what speakers, what kind of, recreation things do they offer? What kind of activities do they offer on the weekend? Is it going to be a commuter college? Is that something that you want if you're further away from home and aren't able to go home? And also, what percentage of the students come from, different states, different, cities, different countries. So just thinking about, if you kind of what sort of setting you want to be a part of. And we mentioned this a little bit earlier, just with extracurricular activities and sports if you currently play a sport, do you want to continue to play that sport? Do you want to play it, on a varsity level? Do you want to play it on intramural level? Do you want to play it as a club? Are you interested in community service opportunities? Do you want to get involved in Greek life? Is that something that's important to you? Theater, music, dance, art, what kind of activities? And again, I encourage students to kind of make a list of those things that are important to them as they are, thinking about going on to that next point in their education. And we talked about this a little bit already, just the admissions piece and making sure that, if you fit in that middle 50%, then you're competitive, the top 50%, probable, and the bottom 50% is a reach, or bottom 25%. So, and then you have those schools that where their admissions rate is less than 25% is considered a reach for anybody. And a question about Greek life. Greek life is fraternities and sororities. And then there's another question about the difference between a college and a university. It's less so now, but in terms, university used to refer to larger schools that have research opportunities, and a college is historically a little bit smaller and not necessarily any research opportunities. That is not necessarily so cut and dry anymore, but definitely, something to, if you're interested in research or interested in those things, something to keep in mind. Some other criteria: there are a lot of single sex schools that will give some good financial aid. So if that's something you're willing to look into, then those schools might be a good fit. Or do you want a co-ed school, a school that's religiously affiliated? Are you an athlete who's going specifically to those schools, or are you looking specifically at HBCUs or HSIs? I think it's good to have a diverse list of, some schools that offer everything. And this is kind of that, what I had mentioned, putting these different priorities on an index card. And really, I would just take those index cards and I would just like order them, like, what is the most important to you? What is the second most important? What is the third most important? So as you are creating your list, you can really make sure that the schools that you are searching for are hitting those top priorities for you. As you get further on down on the list, like maybe it's not as big of a deal that they have exactly the extracurricular activity in underwater basket weaving that you were looking for, but maybe they have something else that will be a good fit for you.
Okay. So the real nitty gritty of it, and when I tell my kids all the time, is a good list, a really good healthy list, is one that includes at least 8 schools. Yeah, you want to be able to comfortably say that you would absolutely go to at least 5 of them, that you will get into and be happy. But I do think you need to have a healthy range of like a reach school, like absolute, like I would love to go there, but I don't know if I'm going to make it. One that you're a couple that you're pretty comfortable with, and maybe a few that, just in case you didn't get into those or you change your mind, that you could go to. When we talk about financial aid and stuff coming back to us, we want to make sure that we're working off a good list and we haven't narrowed too many of our possibilities down.
So there are a number of different resources that are available to you as you start doing research and kind of making sure that that you are selecting schools that match with your priorities. And I will tell you, Naviance is a really great tool, especially if you use the Super Match, which is under colleges and then College Fit. And the reason that I like that is because you can go back to these the priorities, and you can actually specify which priorities are really important to you and what kind of the critical points of those, you know, criteria. So you can pick a specific location, you can pick a specific size, you can pick specific majors that you're interested in. So you can really narrow down on these things that you've identified as priorities. So I find that to be just a really amazing resources. So, you know, again, yep. So college searches are great. It's also a good way because you can communicate that with your counselor. Your counselor is able to see that at your high school. You can save searches. You can heart them and favorite them like you do on the social media things. And that's a really good place to, you know, like I said, I like Naviance. There are also some other ones I really like, College Data. College Raptor is pretty good, but they're a good place to just start and take, you know, the list of thousands of schools and narrow them down into schools that fit your specific criteria. From that place, you know, what I always tell kids is like, use that as a starting place, right? And then after you hit that kind of, you know, the big search thing, then you go into individual colleges' websites and you identify the academic programs that you're interested in. You look at their student life stuff. You know, if you're choosing between schools, I think another great resource is if you look up like local news information, or like if they have any sort of like publication on campus. Like I know in Chapel Hill, they have, it's called the Daily Tar Heel. So, I mean, like just those sort of resources will also give you an idea about like, what are some of the political things that are going on campus? What are some people up to? What are some things that are happening around town? So those are all kind of really good resources as you take that kind of big list and really kind of work it to get smaller till you're at that prime, you know, your 8-ish schools that you're going to apply to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
There are also a number of really good guidebooks. You know, one of my things is like, I'm like, there are a lot of things that are available on the internet. So sometimes like going out to buy a guidebook, you know, maybe might seem a little bit excessive. You can certainly, you know, use the College Finder or the FISC Guide to Colleges or Princeton Review stuff. But I think, you know, sometimes there is just as much information that you can find online without spending, you know, the $20 that book's going to cost you. So I would encourage you to check online first. And then if you have additional questions, or you can just hop by the Barnes and Noble and just leaf through it instead of buying it. Because, you know, I'm all about saving some money.
Or just go to Postgrad and we'll have them.
Yes, also true. Yeah, what a brilliant idea.
It's a library, just come use us.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is. We also have them in, like, I know I've got like 3 or 4 in my office. So of all the things. The other place that I would say is, as you kind of start to get narrow down that list more, if you have specific questions about programs or about majors, like you can go through, if you go on the registrar's office of mostly any college, you can find the classes that they offer. You can look at, if you go to a departmental website for a program that you're interested in at a college, you can see what classes are required for that major. You can really start to kind of dig into, who are the professors? What are they interested in researching? I know I've been working with a kiddo this year who's super interested in genetics. So she and I have been kind of like combing through the, genetics departments at different colleges to find professors whose interests line up with her passion. If you have a particular area of passion like that, absolutely, like explore it and see who at the college is going to be able to meet that. Cannot remind you enough, open your mail, open your email, especially, we've got just a couple more minutes, especially as you take the PSAT your junior year, and then you take the SAT and ACT, colleges get your name if you opt into that college service something. So they will send you mail. They will send you emails. Attend college fairs like you're doing right now. Talk with admissions reps when they visit your school. We've got so many virtual visit opportunities this year. And I know, like, when hopefully we'll have some reps back in person next year, that's a great opportunity to get to know them, to get your name out there, to also get some more specific information about a school that may relate to kind of your passions and interests. And lastly, if you have an opportunity, and we're kind of post-COVID, to tour campuses in person, always a great opportunity. I really encourage you to ask questions, and just kind of make sure that you are making note of your impressions of that campus and how it fits you. So number one, kind of going from here, make sure that you take care of your business in the classroom, because if you do not, then these colleges are not going to be an option anyway. So make sure that you're taking care of your schoolwork first and foremost. Think about your options and what's important to you. Research, ask questions, and then start to create a plan, and make sure that you're using your time wisely. We actually got through all of it. Winning.
And you guys, one of the questions I want you to ask is what are your options for during COVID? Like, are they having class in person? Is it somewhere that you can actually go and live on campus, or do you have to pay to still live on campus and not be able to? And what kind of maybe online options you would have along the way? I think one of the questions, like Heidi was saying, like, you dig along with your professors of whether they like to research and stuff like that. But I think a lot of what I'm finding this year is kids are asking, well, why would I go this year? And I don't want this to stop you. I don't want one more thing to be taken away or limited. So I want you to ask those questions, because we can build things together that are still going to get you exactly what you've worked for.
Awesome. This was such a great session. Thank you
Absolutely.
so much to the both of you. This was absolutely fantastic. I'm super sorry that we're out of time at this point, so I am going to have to end the session. But before I do, I just want to thank again Heidi and Ali for being here and joining us and giving this amazing session with tons of information for our attendees. And thank you, attendees, for being here. Thank you so much. I hope you grabbed some amazing information on how to create your college list. Couple things before you close out when you close out your window, you'll get a quick 4-question survey. Please give us some feedback. Also, sign up for more sessions. Directly after this, we'll be having a virtual college fair. So go ahead and check out the other institutions and use some of the things that you learned tonight to really take that list into account. And then also a recording will be available of this session in the next few days. All right, y'all. Well, thank you so much. Have a great evening, and hopefully we see you in the next sessions. Thank you.
Enjoy.